Well, welcome back to the shop and to the channel. We've got a little bit of an interesting project, or at least I think it's interesting, in the shop today. This is one for down at the roundhouse. This project specifically is for the Reading 2100 steam locomotive restoration. The Reading 2100 is a steam locomotive. It's actually going to be renamed and numbered American Freedom Train 250, and that's in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the United States. Now, that locomotive is being converted from coal to oil for efficiency and a number of other reasons that American Steam Railroad, ASR, has deemed it necessary. As part of that conversion, they need to control the flow of oil as it goes into the burner. Whereas before you'd be shoveling coal, here we're going to be using a valve to control the oil flow as it goes into the boiler. So this bracketry that I have in front of me is for, I believe this is called a power quadrant. And the way this will work when it's mounted in the locomotive is there will be a handle mounted on here that will rotate around a shaft, or rather that will rotate a shaft that will come through these holes, and that handle will control the flow of oil. This bracket had a bronze bushing in it, and it's a bit wallowed out, so we're going to need a new bushing. And these two bores really need to match, and right now they don't. I could bore this bigger. The problem is we don't really have a whole lot of meat here on this bracket on this side, and we don't have a whole lot of meat on the bracket on this side. I will be machining a new bronze bushing, but that really needs to be cleaned up. The end of the shaft that we machine will have the same characteristics on it. It'll be a much longer shaft that goes down underneath the cab of the locomotive to the valve that ends up controlling the oil flow. So I think what I'm going to do to address this is I'm going to weld up the bore on the bracket. I'm going to weld this up, give me a little bit more meat. We'll grind it flat. I'll rebolt these two pieces together. I'll set this up into the Bridgeport. Once I have this bore clean, I can machine up a new bushing. First things first, I need to get this apart, get this bore cleaned up at least a little bit, and take it over to the welding table. And I think I'm just going to use a MIG welder. So let's get to work. Clean up just a little bit. I've got the welder set 030 wire. I got 19.7 volts, 358 inches per minute. I have sprayed things down here with some anti-spatter spray. Well, we did get a little bit of warpage, so we'll just use a little bit of heat to fix that. get this over onto the Bridgeport and see if we can't get this in a position where we can get the boring head in. I think we'll use the center slot here. Let's take this out. All right, let's get some hold down hardware and see what we can come up with. Over here. So the next thing I need to do is set up the coaxial indicator on this bore so I can indicate that. That's pretty close. Might be went off by 5 thousandths, but I'm going to end up having to clean that up anyway. Let's get this out of here and get the boring head mounted, and we can start boring this hole. Well, that sounds great, don't it? I do wish I could have used a carbide insert tool rather than this. Yeah, I don't know that this hole is actually boring straight. I think this is so hard that it's actually curving over the front of it from tool pressure. Let me get a closer look at this. Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing. This is so hard that it's barely cutting the surface, and then it's pushing that tool so far out. The question is it parallel? So I really wasn't happy with the results because of that other boring bar. So I flipped this thing around because I was getting a larger bore on this bracket than I was on the Quadrant itself. I have this flipped around. I actually think this works out better. I wish I would have thought about this particular arrangement before. I've got the largest, shortest boring bar, and this one happens to be one that uses a carbide insert. I believe it's a TNMG. It's probably still going to squeal. Oh, it's so horrible. You know what I'm going to do too is I'm going to shorten this to 1.5 thousandths per revolution feed rate. Here comes the squeal. Well, it's not as bad at the slower feed rate. Oh, I guess I was nicking my machinist jack. Oops. But that is a much better bore. I left that a bit thin. I'm much happier with that result. Now let's get this back over to the bench again and let's take a look at it. Well, I am much happier with the quality of that bore. Before using that brazed carbide boring bar, and as long as it was, I was getting so much tool pressure on this harder piece of material that this was narrower than the bracket. And setting that up a better way, I have a much more consistent bore. It's actually straight and square all the way across. There's no gap in there. Yeah, I need to deburr this. Super happy with that now. Now, so the next step is to machine a bushing that'll go in here. So I need to get this over to the lathe, get it chucked up, get ready to machine the OD on that bushing. I don't know how far this piece of material is going to go back into this 6-jaw chuck. May not be far enough for my taste. I don't want to cut this piece down because it's not mine. And I definitely don't want that much stick out. So I think I'm going to pull this off and switch over to my 3-jaw chuck. Well, unfortunately, I do not have a chuck that both has a wide enough bore that I can get a deeper grip on this piece of bronze and has a correct backing plate. I don't have a pipe center. That live center won't work. So I'm going to have no choice but to do what? Cut this? I really don't want to cut this piece of bronze. Really only wanted to use this much. So the rest of it could be used for something else. So unless I go get the material to make another back plate for another chuck, either one of my 4-jaw chucks or I've got a couple of other 3-jaw chuck, but the one smaller 3-jaw chuck would be kind of perfect. This chuck would be kind of ideal, but it's the back plate. This back plate is for a much smaller spindle, and normally I wouldn't be opposed to just boring this thing out. The problem is the depth of the back plate is pretty narrow, and I don't think that if I bored it out and rethreaded it, there would be enough depth here to thread onto the whole spindle. And I don't have time to wait for a piece of Durabar because I'm not going through the effort it would be to make it out of that other material, nor do I have the time for that anyway. So I guess the only thing I can do is cut off enough of this so I can hold it in the 6-jaw and machine the part that I need. Sucks, but is what it is. I'm going to need 1 inch of material, so I guess we'll take 1.5 inches. That'll give me plenty of room. Do I need that much? Maybe I'll do 1.25 inches. I really don't want to cut off any more than I need, so no, we're going to make it 1 inch and 100 thousandths. That way we're not wasting any more material than needs to be wasted. So I really wanted to kind of salvage as much as I can. I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw, cut this off, and I'll bring it back. All right, I got my piece cut off. I got it chucked up in the chuck. I've given myself, 1 inch and 275 or so that give me room to get a parting tool in here when the time comes. But for now, I want to clean up the face and then do a skim pass over the diameter, and so I can take a measurement. Not quite cleaned up. Let's take off another 15 off the diameter. So my ID is 1 inch 627, and so which means I want to get to about 1 inch 629. So right now I'm at 1,770. So we got about 140 thousandths to come off the diameter. So we'll start with 50 thousandths. And let's take another 50. So we're at 650, 70, 71. Okay, so another 42 thousandths to come off. All right, and then we'll take another 10. $639. So 10,000. So we'll take 5. $634. Gonna dial all 5,000 here. $629.5. Okay, so the ID needs to be 1 inch 200 thousandths. Now this ID doesn't matter because we're going to machine the shaft to fit. So we're going to start here and just start whittling away this for a bit. I probably have quite a bit to go here. So let's just clean up the inside and take a measurement and see where it's at. That's a pretty rough finish. I'm going to need to swap out this insert. And we'll take another 20 thousandths off the diameter. It actually seemed to cut a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and take 50 thousandths off the diameter. We'll do another 50. And another 50. We're going to call that right where it's at. Go ahead and chamfer these edges. Go ahead and get set up to part this off. Come over to the edge here. Right there. I'm going to zero my travel dial. We'll come down 1. Okay, there's 900 thousandths, 990. Go ahead and lock my carriage. I need to slow that feed down. Bring something over here to catch it. Now it needs to press into there. I think it's going to be a good press fit. You find something to prop this up with so we can put it in the arbor press and press it home. Okay, over here at the arbor press, I get this centered up. That little chamfer helps get things started. Hopefully I don't have any issues here with this. All right, nice and straight. Well, I can go a little bit further, can't I? There we go. Yep, I think that's going to work out great. Well, this half of the project is complete. Pretty happy with it. This is not the correct shaft, but this will go in here. We'll make a new shaft that'll fit in there, but I think that bushing came out great. I'm happy with it. So take this back down to the roundhouse and we'll have to make the control rod. We'll have to machine that down there because I don't have a lathe large enough to make that happen. But that's going to have to be another video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. And if you are a subscriber, I continue to thank you. And I especially appreciate those that have helped out the channel either via PayPal or Patreon or in some other ways. And if you'd want to do something like that, there's some links down in the description that you can do that with. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.